Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Women in Games. We are the multiplayer group, and I am Alex, the head of marketing here, and I'm joined by our we're going to talk to you a little bit this morning about getting into the world of games and multiplayer games in particular. So, James, welcome. Tell us a bit about what you do, who you are.
Cool, yeah, thanks for having me, and hello, everyone. As you've mentioned, I'm the head of talent here for the multiplayer group. Been with the company now for around about, it's coming up to 4.5 years. So I've been with MPG since its infancy. So we've grown quite significantly since then, and we're obviously across the globe from a talent perspective. I've been involved with talent as such now for coming up to 17 years. And I've been predominantly involved in technology, software and technology for the past 10 years, 9 of that being involved in the games industry. So my role here with MPG is responsible for everything on talent related. So anything from kind of talent management through to talent attraction, and effectively hiring amazing individuals in the games industry into MPG to support us with our projects that we're working on.
And you are a Women in Games ambassador, is that right?
I'm a Women in Games ambassador. Yeah, this will be my second year, or coming up to my second year now. In fact, no, it's longer than that. It'll be coming up to 2.5 years now. I've got 4 people in my team as well. So I've got Emma, Annie, Kelly, and Laura, and all 4 of those are also supporting Women in Games, and I think 3 out of the 4 are Women in Games ambassadors as well. So, yeah, something that we're super passionate about.
Thank you. So I'm sure there's lots of people here this morning who are looking to get into the industry. What advice would you give people if they're not sure where to start?
So, I mean, depending on where you want to go, because across MPG and certainly across the majority of the games industry, studios or publishers, there's several areas from a functionality perspective. So you have engineering, you have design, you have art, you have production, you have QA, you obviously have central functions, marketing, talent, people. However, if it's kind of core games that you want to work on, as opposed to those central functions, I think ultimately finding out what it is you want to do, getting into the games industry, again, going back to what I mentioned originally, is, depending on where you would like to land, whether it be engineering, art, design, production, QA, it would be very, very useful for you to kind of understand which area of the games industry you'd like to get into. And then from there, kind of reach out to studios or specific universities that might support these areas of the games industry. Ultimately, some studios, in fact, the majority of studios and publishers will have graduate programs or internship programs to kind of start you off on your journey into the games industry. And similarly, we have an academy program here at MPG that supports individuals that would like to come into the games industry and have an opportunity to develop and look at what that looks like. Also, I think it's probably useful for people to reach out to HR or talent functions within certain studios as well. Majority of those will give career advice and ways of getting into the industry as well. So if they don't have those type of programs, it might be useful to have those conversations. Keep a lookout on social media, and have a look at who's hiring and where they're hiring, and what kind of areas that they're looking to support people who want to get into the games industry, and ultimately just have a conversation with someone.
So do you need to have a degree, or are there any particular skills levels that people need to be working towards?
It's not a prerequisite. However, in some areas, it would be advantageous to say, for instance, have a computer science or engineering if from an engineering background, or if you've come from a computer science or an information technology education, it would be advantageous. But it's, again, like I say, it's not a prerequisite. We have individuals in the business now who've been with MPG, and I can only speak on MPG's behalf, that have not come from educational backgrounds. However, have either self-taught or done online courses from a coding perspective, and then just kind of brought themselves into the industry and thrived and developed through our development programs and so on from there as well. From a design perspective, art, I think sometimes it can be something that you're interested in. So the majority of our people that sit within the art function are quite artistic in the way they approach things and in their nature, and from design as well. I think, again, it's kind of, the games industry is something from a design perspective where you would go, well, I want to be a game designer, or I want to be a level designer. It's not something that you would automatically know that you'd want to be, unless you were like heavily involved in games, or it's something that you were, really interested in. But again, certainly from an MPG perspective, it's not a prerequisite. There are other areas as well that people kind of venture into to get into the games industry, and that's in QA. And we've got a few members of the team who've come into QA and then since moved on into other areas of the business because it's something that they've been passionate about. But QA would, gives you that kind of understanding of what it's like working in the industry.
So in that case, then, do you think a portfolio is actually more important, whether that's personal projects or projects that you've worked on, real shipped games? That's actually more important than what degree you've got?
I think so, personally, yeah, because again, we've got people who are super, super talented who just didn't have the opportunity to go to university for one reason or another, who've had amazing portfolios, or worked on their personal or professional portfolio from a design or art perspective, who have come into the business and thrived and done really well in that environment. So yeah, I think that would be massively advantageous for certainly for those functions. From an engineering perspective, we've had people come in who've, again, self-taught themselves to code, whether that be C# or C++ or Java, and again come in and thrived based on the fact that they have the fundamentals and understanding of what coding looks like.
Thank you. On that note, if anyone is interested in how to create a really great portfolio, Ryan from our design team is doing a talk later about how to do just that. So make sure you check in for that. What are some common mistakes or misconceptions that job seekers make in the industry when applying?
So I think fundamentally understanding the organization that you're applying for. So it would be a good idea to do some research prior to engaging with someone from the business. So, looking on our website, understanding what we do as an organization. Obviously, we are co-dev, full dev, don't own our own IP. So having an understanding of what that means, and I'm talking again from an MPG perspective, having a look on some of our social media channels and our website to see what kind of games and areas we've worked in and what kind of genre we've worked on. If you are working in design or art functions, making sure you have kind of clear links or somewhere we can kind of view your portfolio online, and I suppose just being honest and upfront about why you're reaching out to us to potentially come on board with MPG, but not only that, but coming into the games industry.
Yeah, great. So a little bit of a different angle. What should people look for in an employer? Are there any like specific questions they should be asking at interviews, do you think?
Yeah, I think they should be asking again. This goes. It works both ways in an interview process. Ultimately, you need to get out of it what you want ultimately, because we want to make sure that we're the right organization for you. So I'd be kind of looking at what organizations are doing around their DIB initiatives. I'd also be looking at some of the feedback on areas such as Glassdoor, and kind of seeing what kind of feedback they're getting from current employees or current and existing and past employers.
The genre of games that people put out, I think, is really important. Like, if you hate shooter games, don't apply for a company that only makes shooters.
Yeah, and sometimes that might not be clear on our website,
Oh yeah,
because of the nature of our business. However, if you want to have a conversation with someone about those, just ask the question. We're very inclusive, and we'll do, we've got an area on our website where we've just got general application, because we want people to feel comfortable, regardless of kind of what walk of life you're in or coming from, to just reach out and have a conversation. It's very clear to see that we're an organization that's built around its people. So we're human beings at the end of the day. So if there's a question that you don't see where you can get the answer from, just reach out to myself or reach out to someone from my team. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you and kind of steer you in the right direction, or support where we can, if we can. Yeah, I think it's important to understand and know that we're approachable.
Yeah, I think for me as well, maybe this gets easier the longer you've worked in a role or the more experience you have. And if you're trying to get your foot in the door, it's slightly harder to ask these questions. But for me, it was always about finding a company that really aligns with my values. And I don't think people should be afraid to ask those questions. Like you just said, what DIB initiatives do you have? How do you look after the environment? Things like that. Because that means a lot to me, and that was one reason why I chose MPG. And if you want a company that will let you work from home 100% of the time, then don't be afraid to ask about that if that's important to you.
Yeah, and we're super flexible, where within reason, with everything that we do. And part of the reason we are a people first organization is because we run surveys on a monthly basis, and we listen. And it's quite cliche to say that we are people driven, but we are. We've been remote first since day one, week one, because we support external projects from a remote perspective. So it would have been very hypocritical of us to say, well, you can't work remotely. We want to be super flexible, and we want to give people the autonomy to thrive and grow within the environment that they're in. And giving that element of flexibility and the autonomy to be able to do so is massively beneficial, and the reason why we've been able to grow like we have, and the reason why we've got a really good retention of our people.
Yeah, well, you kind of answered my next one, which was around what makes MPG special.
I mean, that was just one of many reasons, but I think ultimately, and I know we've touched on this a number of times, but it's the people, it's the leadership team. You wouldn't even know that they are the leadership team, because, and I know I mentioned this previously in one of your other questions, Alex, is we're only human at the end of the day, and we're all in an industry that we absolutely adore and love. Hence the reason why the majority of us have been here for a number of years. But I don't even see MPG as work. I see it as a part of my life.
Yeah.
And it's a massive part of my life, and I get to come to work or get up and spend time doing some really amazing things with some of the most talented people I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it sounds a bit cliche and maybe a bit sickly when we go on about how great our people are, but it's true, and you only need to look on like our Glassdoor reviews for that to be obvious. But also, I think maybe being a co-dev studio is quite special in a lot of ways, because our engineers and designers and artists all get to work on lots of different games, rather than, you know, working for a AAA publisher. You might just work on one game for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get a lot of breadth within your project work, which I know people love.
They do, and people are given the opportunity to do so, which again,
Yeah.
I think you know, goes back to being people first. Is that you might work for a studio, like you say, that has a game that you're not particularly like invested in, whereas MPG, you have the opportunity to say, well, that's something I'm probably not as passionate about as this project, so therefore I would really love the opportunity to work on this project. And again, it goes back to that people first, and we give people the opportunity to do things they're passionate about and things that they love.
Great, thank you. Now, this is a very broad question, but if someone applies for a job with us, what is the interview process like?
It's relatively straightforward, and this is cross-functional as well. So we have what we call a qualification review checkpoint. So you would get to speak to a member of the amazingly talented TA team here at MPG. So we'll go through that process. If and when necessary, we have like a functional assessment process, which is either a C++ test or a backend test or an art task, to understand kind of, these are not tasks that are pass or fail. It's just to kind of give us an overview of where you're at, depending on kind of what level of C++ you might have had exposure to, and so on and so forth. And then the last process for us is, once those two areas have been conducted, is a final stage interview. So that will be with discipline lead or potential head of engineering or VP of engineering, and that is it. We keep it really, really straightforward, purely and simply because we want it to be as less intrusive as possible. We want people to feel comfortable, not just I mean, I know it's an interview process, but it's not, we don't like to enter into it as like a really formal interview process. It's more of a, let's get to know each other, let's understand kind of how you work and how we work, and ultimately it's a two-way decision process. You need to understand what we can, you know, support you on, and we need to understand as well where where the value adding piece is going to be from yourself, and we kind of enter into it similar to what we do with our co-dev. It's a partnership, so
Yeah.
we like to approach our recruitment process like that, and really make it as personable as possible, purely and simply because that's who we are as an organization. So we want to make sure that you have an understanding throughout that first initial engagement, what it's like, and a venture into, or a forward eye looking forward on what it's like inside MPG as an organization. And the talent team are really, really good at making you as an individual coming through that process understand what a day in the life at MPG would be like.
Yeah, I agree. It was certainly the most laid back interview that I've ever had. You know, I thought the whole way through I was like, I've definitely not got this job, but actually it was only because everyone was so lovely and chilled, and there was no grilling questions that you normally expect, and all of those horrible things that you get at normal job interviews. So yeah, it was great. So yeah, if anyone's thinking of applying or would like to explore working for us, what should they do next?
They should either reach out to myself, or which is James Chapman at mpg.io, or I'm on LinkedIn, or you could go to the multiplayergroup.io or .com, I think it's .com.
.com.
It is. And have a look at all of our open roles on there on our careers tab. Ultimately, all of our roles, again, there's a general application on there as well. If there isn't a role there that kind of suits what you're looking for, a member of the talent team will reach out and have a conversation with you about that. I've also got Emma, Annie, Kelly, and Laura, who are all on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to them as well. And you'll be able to find them as part of the talent team on the MPG page on LinkedIn as well. So they'll be accessible through there. And I think it's quite easy to apply for a role through us. So you can click on the general application and apply, and that will kind of take you through to our applicant tracking system, or ATS, which will give you the opportunity to pause your CV, and we'll take the rest from there, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. That's great. Emma and Annie are actually available today as well if you want a little one-to-one 15-minute chat with them about what it's like to be at MPG or any role in particular. You can find them on the online networking system today as well. Thanks, James.
Pleasure.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, reach out. Like I mentioned, the team will be here all day today if you need any questions answering, or you can reach out to James anytime. But yeah, thank you, everybody.